What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back. And today we are continuing to tour the Walt Disney World Resort in MC Magic here on the Minecraft server. Today we are looking at another classic attraction in the Magic Kingdom, an opening day attraction in the Magic Kingdom, and that is Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. Now, this attraction, even though it is the copy version of the one in Disneyland, it is not a one-for-one duplicate copy. And not only is it not a exact version of the show in Disneyland, it has also had an interesting history in terms of during the Michael Eisner era. It was one of the biggest criticisms in Eisner's territory of taking attractions and changing them. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but very controversial attraction at the time in terms of some of the decisions the Disney company was going and changing some of the things with the Tiki Room. So for starters, we have to start in Disneyland. And I think this attraction, very fittingly, Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. This is one like the Carousel Progress. This is not an accident that Walt Disney's name is attached to this attraction. It is one of the most historic attractions in all of the Disney parks for a multitude of reasons. It's famous for being one of the first attractions built entirely around audio animatronic technology. This is what Walt Disney, the animatronics from the original Disneyland Tiki Room, were the first versions of audio animatronics. And you have to remember at this time during the 60s and the 70s, that this was technology that was brand new. The idea of audio animatronics, obviously, creating President Lincoln was such a huge accomplishment back then, but even before that, to get to creating Lincoln, they had to create something that worked better for the time. You have to remember, with no sort of blueprint for creating audio animatronics, the best way to start was using a bird because of the very rigid movements of the birds, how small they were, how compact. It actually, made it possible where Disney could create animatronics. And that's really where this all started, was from that beginning phase when they started creating the audio animatronics for this attraction. And the original version, going back to Disneyland, debuted with Disneyland in 1963. And this is the one that the eyes of Walt Disney actually laid on, this version of the Tiki Room. And I think another really interesting thing, going even further back before this was, finalized as a concept, was, and I'd love to see Disney bring this back in some way because it's so well known now, but I'll still tell you guys in case you don't know. But I'm really curious what this is going to be here. But they do actually have the birds. That is really cool. Wow. So continuing along here, back in the day, the idea for this was not a sit-down show theater. It was actually going to be, you sit at a restaurant and you have the birds over you talking and doing the show around you while you're eating. And the biggest problem, and I think part of the reason Disney hasn't done it today, at the end of the day, guys, this all comes back to money and operations and throughput. And Disney had a hard time figuring out, well, how could we create the show where the show would be able to, if someone just started dinner, right? Everyone would have to start dinner at the same time and end dinner at the same time. And you would have to have like a set schedule where people could eat at the same time. Because if you had people coming in halfway through the show or really what it gets to the point is it's hard to book reservations to this restaurant if it's solely based on the show. And that's part of the reason Disney did not end up doing that. And I think they can make it work today. But even today, that is still an issue, because if you have half the seating available, and now you have all these people waiting for the show, watching the show, but then you have other people that would love to come in, but they don't want to come in halfway through the show, well, then again, it's taking maybe part of that idea of, well, now I'm missing some of the show, it creates this whole operations issue. And that's part of the reason they didn't end up doing that. So they ended up opening, like I said, 1963, they opened the original one in Disneyland. And then in 1971, October 1st, opening day of the Magic Kingdom, we clearly saw the Tropical Serenade was the original name of the Tiki Room here in Florida. And it was sort of going back to, the fact this attraction was in Florida, and I think they were a little averse to calling it the Tiki Room, as somehow it was kitschy or cheap or tchotchke, and so they went with calling it the Tropical Serenade. Now, in 1998, this is where things got kind of interesting, because Disney upgraded the attraction to the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management. And what's really interesting about this is my first couple times coming to Disney, or coming to Disney World, was this version of the attraction. And it actually scared me as a kid. I actually have video of me. My grandfather's filming me in the theater. I was scared of the dark, so obviously sensitivity overload with the dark lights, and then Oa coming out and dancing in the middle of the thing, and the thunderstorms, and everything that happened in that original version scared the life out of me. So yeah, so that was kind of fun. And eventually we saw it actually change. Now, the reason is still a little bit murky. So they added a couple of animatronics to this attraction, and you have to remember this is the 90s, right? The Disney Renaissance era. So who would be more fitting for this type of attraction with birds that are animatronics than Iago from Aladdin and Zazu from The Lion King? And those animatronics in themselves were actually fantastic. I can respect how incredible those animatronics look, but it also, in a sense, took away from it almost made the other animatronics look less than. Because the reality is, the other animatronics were very basic looking models from when this attraction opened in the 70s. And now you add 20 years of technology in 1998, when this new updated version, it made the other birds look worse, I guess you could say, or outdated, but they were really nice animatronics. And like I said, Oa was also a part of it. She would dance in the middle of the theater and have her moment when Iago was messing with the Tiki gods and, trying to change the show. And another really underrated part of this version was, Disney really made fun of themselves in this attraction. Saying, have fun, enjoy the Hall of Presidents if you want to take a nap. Like, Disney outwardly making fun of themselves, which I do think Eisner did a good job of. Like, it put a little bit more light in it, and made it more of a fun, like, all right, we're confident enough in ourselves that we can make fun of ourselves a little bit. I think Disney used to be way more confident as a company when they would do that type of stuff. But that was another kind of interesting part. In 2011, like I said, there was a small fire that damaged part of the attraction. And Disney restored the classic version and reopened it later that year in 2011. And it was renamed back to sort of a nod to Walt, with Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. And from 2011 till today, 15 years later, wow, it's been 15 years since they brought it back. But it has been 15 years this year that the Enchanted Tiki Room from Walt Disney is in the Magic Kingdom. And it really is an attraction that I think is a must do. I think a lot of people, with the stimulation in today's world and environment, it's an easy one to just forget about, because you have all the coasters and everything else going on around you that is probably more exciting, in all honesty. But this is one that is a staple, and it's a reminder of how far Disney has come since 1963 with audio animatronic technology. It's really fascinating, and this is one that I really love, this attraction, and I would be pretty upset if Disney were to ever replace it. And the concept has come up in the past about, and we've actually seen this, I think, in Tokyo, where Disney had the Enchanted Tiki Room and they put Stitch in the middle. And they have a nice little Stitch animatronic that dances around. He's got his little guitar singing and stuff. It kind of an interesting concept, but I think it worked. Uh, but to do that here in the States, I think would be a little bit more frowned upon, because I think people, it's almost a desecration of Walt. And I think at some point we will see something else happen to the Tiki Room. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's that far away. I think a lot of the theater shows in the Magic Kingdom could see some serious change over the next 10 years. I mean, you look at, they've redone Splash Mountain, they've added Tron. They could be potentially doing a complete overhaul of Adventureland, which I think is very much a possibility soon. I think the idea of adding Moana to the Adventureland area, it seems like inevitable at this point. It's just a matter of what Disney's going to end up doing with Adventureland. But I could see them removing the magic carpets of Aladdin. As much as that is a people eater attraction, I could see them removing that. I could see them getting rid of the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. And then you have potentially downtime with the Enchanted Tiki Room. If this whole area is closed off and redone, that gives you so much room to play around with the Tiki Room. And maybe it's adding Moana to the Tiki Room. Maybe it's adding Stitch. Like, I think Disney really wants to add Stitch back into the parks, especially with how successful as a brand and IP that Stitch is. They need a gift shop in the Magic Kingdom that can sell Stitch merchandise out of, right? And they kind of have that in Star Traders, but it's not the same thing. I could really see Disney trying to do something else with that. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for today. I'd love to know what you guys think down below. What do you guys think of the Enchanted Tiki Room? Is this an untouchable? Would you prefer to see maybe some kind of compromise? Like, well, instead of just getting rid of the Tiki Room, could we add Moana or Stitch just to make it a little more relevant? Is it better the way it is now? Because again, Disney tried this already. They tried to change it. Oh, this show is outdated. It's not. It's got to keep up with the times. And look how that turned out. People absolutely hated the under new management version of this attraction. So maybe is Disney going to learn their lesson from last time and say, we're just going to leave it alone because this is what it is. Accept it for what it is, and this is the Enchanted Tiki Room. Or do they look for another opportunity to do something else with it? I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time.